Welcome back to the episode of From Small Town Farm Boy to Fitness Expert. We're recording live here in the Blue Studio. On today's episode of Brews Business Podcast, before we get started, we want to mention our coffee roaster sponsor, GI Love Joe Coffee Company, a woman and veteran-owned business right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. GI Love Joe offers 4 delectable coffee blends, each meticulously crafted to suit different taste profiles and roast levels. Whether you prefer the light and vibrant Bugle Boy or the all-day companion Old Glory, the pour-over favorite Hail to the Chief, or the strong and robust Bombs Away, there's a blend for every coffee lover. Support local and enjoy the brew that fuels our podcast, and check out GI Love Joe Coffee Company. And remember that every sip is a salute to our soldiers. Find out more about them at gilovejoe.com. Welcome back to another episode of the Brews Business Podcast. And today we're excited to bring you an insightful conversation with our guest, Tyler, he goes by Ty. He's the owner of iMove PT Tulsa. Ty is not just a business owner. He's a physical therapist, a wellness mentor, and an advocate for the power of growth mindset and habit formation and achieving healthy lifestyle changes, specializing in optimal fitness routines and longevity for injury prevention and rehabilitation. So in this episode, he's going to share some of his wealth and knowledge to help us entrepreneurs maintain our health and ensure that we can savor the fruits of our hard work for many years to come. And on today's brew, Ty, welcome. And thank you so much for bringing this. This is the Yamazaki single malt Japanese whiskey, 12-year aged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, welcome in, and thank you for bringing this.
Enjoy.
It's cool. So before we go into too much introductions, let's go ahead and sip on this. See what we think. What should I expect from this?
So the smell, it's going to be kind of sweet. The flavor is going to be kind of sweet, and the finish is going to be kind of sweet, but you will get the oak from the barrel because it was aged in a charred oak barrel, just like a bourbon or a scotch, and it's going to be nice and smooth because it's been aged 12 years.
Okay. All right.
Ooh, I like it.
Almost like a butterscotch finish.
Yeah.
Oh, it is sweet.
That's good.
And smooth. You know, one of the things I've noticed, I love whiskeys and scotches.
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that was just like, oh, is it really a big deal? Like 12, 15, 18, 20, et cetera years. Does it really make a difference the longer that it's aged? Because I've had some cigars and I've had some other things that have been aged, and it's not always better, but I feel like with whiskeys and scotches, it's always makes a difference. It's like so much smoother the longer it ages, and there's like more taste profiles.
Yeah. Have you ever had like a 25 plus year
No.
scotch? Okay. So I feel like that's true up until about that 25 year. And then that you've had enough of that alcohol evaporate from the barrel. They call it the angel share. And then you start to get more bitterness from the wood. And so you actually get kind of like a bitter flavor. So if you like bitter, which a lot of people do, capers, things like that, people enjoy, you're going to like those more. But I like that kind of 17 to 25 year finish. I think those are the best, and they typically win the worlds.
Wine and cigars are kind of like that too. I think you can only age wine for so long, and if I'm wrong, y'all mentioned, say something, let me know if I'm wrong. And cigars are kind of like that too. Like they can only age for so long. I don't think you can age coffee. Can you? Is that a thing? Have you ever heard of that?
Dude, I'm sure at some point somebody left a can of coffee in the back there. Cabinet for way too long.
You want to know something wild though? There's actually coffee beans that are shit out of an elephant in like Africa, and they're like $1,300 a pound.
Yeah, well, Kopi Luwak's actually out of a cat.
That one? Yeah.
In South America.
South America.
Huh.
Yeah.
And then when we were in Vietnam, we were drinking coffee. That was the kind of the equivalent to Kopi Luwak, but it came out of weasels. So
Wow.
the weasels would eat the
Was it good
the
coffee?
beans. It was okay.
It was different.
It was
You're like,
different.
well, when you know what you're drinking.
It has a different flavor to it for sure.
So as a farm boy, you don't look like one. You look like a professional,
Well, I appreciate that.
which is a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a city boy. My mom was raised on a farm, and my dad kind of fell in love with that lifestyle and wanted to farm, so he got into it and never really looked like a farmer, acted like a farmer, but just kind of grew to love the lifestyle. And that's how we were raised. We're just tennis shoe farmers, never owned a pair of cowboy boots till I was living in Kansas City. But I love the lifestyle, love the work ethic that it instilled in us, just going out there and having to get a job done. You couldn't stop. wasn't like, once you started working the cows, if it was going bad, you couldn't just like, well, let's put them all out to pasture and do it tomorrow. Like, you
got to finish it.
You got to finish the job. So a lot of valuable lessons learned there, and I'll cherish those my whole life, and love taking my kids out there to put them to work now, even though they're too small to really help out too much. They just get in the way.
So, and you said something about like you grew up on 300 acres.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a good amount of space.
Yeah,
that's enough to make a bonfire.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Two.
Big
couple cows.
Braden, you must have grew up in the city.
Yeah.
I did actually.
The city boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
City boy.
Look
okay.
at me.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I know the acreage was nice. Hunting, fishing, like all that was within a step away versus being in the city where you have to kind of schedule a whole day around it.
Yep.
Like,
Or a weekend.
yeah,
Yep.
or a whole weekend. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever go hunting on your own property?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was pretty much the only place I hunted.
Nice.
I would imagine that's what you would do. But yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you still farm today?
I love it. Actually, when I went to college, I never wanted to go to college because my best friend from high school and me were looking at 4-year degrees, and we're like, we're going to pay $50,000 to make $20,000. Like, there's nothing about this that makes any sense at all. And so I had looked at starting a fence building business and doing that like October through March, and then doing landscaping in the summer. And we had figured out just me alone would make $50,000 a year. And I'm like, there's no 4-year degree paying this. Why am I going to go to college? But I was blessed. I applied to a college called College of the Ozarks in Branson, Missouri, which no one pays for. It's a work study school. So you work 15 hours a week, 2 40-hour work weeks a year, and everyone gets 100% of their tuition paid by the school, essentially.
Awesome.
So great opportunity. I was like, well, if it's free, I'll go. So made that jump, went to college, met my wife, and she was very studious. I was not. And I've realized really quick if I was going to hang out with her, I needed to take science classes and start studying, and because that's all she did, was because she wanted to be an orthodontist from the time she was 15 years old, and knew that she wasn't just like scoring out, high on the ACT, SAT. She needed to work hard, and she had a work ethic just like me, and so we just kind of became each other's study buddies and worked hard through undergrad, and got into grad school, and I became a doctor of physical therapy. She became a dentist, worked in the Navy for 5 years as a general dentist, as an officer, and then she got into residency in Las Vegas and became an orthodontist, which was her ultimate dream. And so it's kind of cool to see her achieve that and be a supportive piece in that. And that was a big inspiration for me when we finally settled down. I'm like, now it's my turn. Let's get going. So I started my business and been growing that for the last year and a half.
Started about a year and a half ago. I've heard that whenever you start a business, it takes you about 5 to 7 years. And when it used to be 3 years, it was kind of like the mark where you started to make some money, especially when you're not one of those business owners that have like started and sold, kind of like conversations that we've had in the past. We've got a little bit more experience in like building the process and finding the people and stuff. So like, what's the hardest struggle that you've had so far? Because you're fairly new into it.
Yeah.
What's it like?
Well, I had a mentor. My first boss out of physical therapy school owns about 5 nationwide companies. And he's a physical therapist by degree, but an entrepreneur by heart, and hasn't practiced physical therapy for probably 30 years. So I called him when I had my idea about having a mobile physical therapy practice like we were talking about earlier. Because of having a wife as a dentist, you realize a lot of those medical professionals, executives, lawyers, business owners, like they don't have time to, drive 30 minutes to a clinic, spend an hour there, drive 30 minutes back. They just lose too much in productivity, too much in income to really justify it. So they wait till the end of their careers. They get fusions where they've been dealing with pain for the last 10, 15 years, and they try to make best with what years they got left.
They're just like, I probably pulled something. It's fine. It'll stretch back out.
Exactly. So I just figured if I had a business that went to them and met them where they needed it, that we would not only get them well, but it would keep them productive in their business or their careers. And so I started talking with my friend in Kansas City and put together a business plan. And he put me in touch with his friend in St. Louis who was doing something really similar, and he had been doing it for 26 years. As an outpatient clinic. He owned 10 outpatient clinics, had a ton of business experience, sold them all to a bigger company. And when COVID hit and everyone went home, he's like, well, everyone's home. They're not going to these outpatient clinics. Temporarily, I'm going to start seeing people in their homes. And he just kind of thought of it as a temporary thing. But then he started having more fun than he'd ever had in physical therapy because you're one-on-one with the patient for the full hour. You're getting better results because you're not seeing 4 patients at a time. You're not saying, get on a heat pack, get on a cold pack, get on electrical stimulation, which we know doesn't do anything. But just to survive in a clinic, you have to make the patients pretend it does something, so that you have time to go do this over here with another patient. And so I was talking to him, and I'm like, would you want a business partner? Because I realized, like you said, I didn't have a lot of experience, and the more people I could get in my corner, the better off I'd be right off the bat. And so he said, well, I was actually thinking about franchising it because I've enjoyed it so much. And I said, I'll be your first franchisee.
Nice.
So iMove PTs, actually, there's the 5th one just launched. So there's 5 iMove PT franchisees now, and I was the first one.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But, it hasn't been easy, but we don't believe in a lot of debt. So I went into it debt-free. I've grown it debt-free, which has been...
You still don't have debt?
Yeah.
No credit card? No loans?
I got a credit card, but I pay it off every month. Yeah.
That's
Sweet.
That's how you should work a credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, I'll tell you just from my own experience, it's definitely good to, like, even if you don't need the loan, go ahead and get it and do it now. Do it as early as you can. Go ahead and get a couple business credit cards. Go ahead and buy some bubble gum, put a software subscription or something on it for $30 a month, because your business is going to build its own credit. It's going to help out your personal and stuff too. So in the future, if you do decide to have additional locations, maybe you decide to have, franchise, iMove franchise in another location, you could do that, and it may be a lot easier to acquire capital if you ever decide to grow faster, or something happens in the market, or I don't know. There's so many like little hiccups and things like that could happen. So it's so nice just to be able to have your own available credit there when and if you ever need it. And it's so much easier to start that off earlier on. Like if I did that 10 years ago rather than 4 or 3, I'd have so much more business credit history. I'm not a credit pro or anything, but that's just my experience.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you on that. Only from experience of trying to get credit. Now, again, your business is different than mine. It's kind of hard to do my business without debt. But you're right on the money. I mean, if I would have went on earlier on and tried to get those loans before I grew and before you pretty much start to mess up those numbers and add employees and more people to it, we would have been better off in our growth spurts. To where now you're pretty well established. You kind of have, you know what you're doing, but ultimately when you go to a bank, they're like, well, yeah, but you got this debt, you got all this above you. Again, I think it just depends on where you are in your phase of life, and your business. But depending on the size of your business that you plan on getting to, it's definitely easier to get something rolling earlier on than it is later on. I know, like, we're 5 years in, and I would assume I could walk in and get a loan from almost anybody, because you got 5 years of proof that I kept this thing alive. That's a win. But no, it doesn't work out that way. And
Banks don't care if you've been in business for 5 years or 10 years.
Exactly.
They go, well, have you done this before? Do you have any credit? What's your score? And they're like, there's more to it than that. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I do have one employee, a patient care representative, who's been a great addition. But when I hire another doctor of physical therapy, that's going to be a lot bigger expense, especially while their schedule's getting built up. And I was just planning on kind of sacrificing, some of my take home to make up for that, but maybe a loan would kill 2 birds with one stone.
Well, so real quick, Chance hasn't been in a minute.
No. Yeah.
How are you, sir?
A lot better now.
That's good. That's good.
That's loud.
Was it?
I thought it was loud.
They're proud of you.
My bad. Yeah, they are. They're excited that you're here, man.
It's been like a month, if not more.
A little bit more.
You were saying?
No, it's been good. Just been a lot of work at the house that I got, so that's what I've been doing.
Nice. I don't remember what I was saying.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, okay. With the loan.
We're back.
Yeah, sorry. With the loan for the physical therapy. I feel like, with that, you're kind of right on the money with both. I think no matter what, you're probably going to end up sacrificing some of your take home, some of your paycheck.
Sure.
And that's just part of it. But I do think that maybe a loan, at least for us in certain points, when we were going through that growth phase, to hire someone else would have helped mitigate that. Because, you hire someone to help you grow your business, right? An employee, and realistically they do, but it does take about 6 weeks for them to kind of figure out what it is their job is and kind of start toning in on your perspective. And there's a whole book of business you're trying to build for this person, which takes a little bit longer than just a few weeks, so that is something that maybe, like you said, a loan might help in that particular instance. I personally, we didn't do loans whenever we grew, just for the instance of we used to say we just like when it hurts. It kind of reminds you that you're kind of in this. There's no way out of it. Similar to you get in, you got nothing. And I think sometimes when you're caught up in the business, you forget kind of how far along you are. And hiring that next person and kind of letting it hurt for a little bit was kind of like, okay, so my business isn't as productive or isn't as efficient as I thought it was. Well, I hired this person, so now I better figure it out because I still need my paycheck. And so I promised them theirs. So you kind of it works both ways. Growing is tricky. There's a physical growing, there's a financial growing, mental growth. We talked about that a little bit ago.
Family has to grow with you,
right? Like there is right. That's something that we've experienced.
Family takes
for sure.
a sacrifice.
Family takes a sacrifice, absolutely. So it all kind of plays together, of course. Personally speaking, I mean, though, it's fun. I wouldn't have it any other way. Being a business owner it's got its pros and cons for sure. I think the pros definitely outweigh it if you can withstand the cons.
For sure. I've been doing this 10 years. Actually, no, I'm old. I've been doing this 12 years, and I'm having more fun than I've ever
old.
had. Yeah.
How old are you?
38.
You're not old. You can still live your life twice.
Yeah.
You could start over fresh tomorrow and like brand new. And imagine if you were like 1 and you knew the same knowledge. That's weird, right? But you get my idea.
Well,
right?
and that's my passion is helping people know what to do now so that at 95 they can do what they want at 95. So Peter Attia calls it the Centennial Olympics, like develop the 10, 15, 20 things you want to be able to do at 90, and I can help you right now know what you need to do now that's going to make that happen. Because once we hit 75, we start declining.
So do I need to come see you when I feel pain or after a surgery or because there's chiropractic care? Do you align? Is that similar type normal care? Or
I do manipulations. I do different things to help with the symptom, but the downfall to modern medicine right now is all it does is treat the symptom. It doesn't help you prevent anything. There's no doctor coming out of med school that's going to help you prevent heart disease. It's going to help you prevent lung disease. It's going to tell you how to be 80 years old and be able to squat down and pick up a 50-year-old grandkid. They just don't learn that. They learn how to diagnose what you're dying from and keep you from dying from it. And they're really good at that.
So that's what you do. That's what you can do at PT with physical therapy.
My goal is to help people learn how to prevent all those things.
How do you do that? You stretch every day or what?
No, there's 5 things you have to focus on to have optimal longevity. So not just live a long time, which is lifespan, but live well for a long time, which is health span, which means I want to be able to do as much as I possibly can up until the day I die. Where most people, modern medicine has increased lifespan, but most people in the last decade of their life don't have much life. Mm-hmm. It's like Benjamin Franklin said a long time ago, there's a lot of dead people that haven't been buried yet. And that's still true today. There's a lot of people who just really can't live, but modern medicine can still keep them alive for another decade. But what if they had treated their bodies right up until that point? And so those 5 things are nutrition, knowing what to eat, when to eat it, how much to eat, exercise, not just playing basketball or golf, because they're great. I love both those things, but any sport, a lot of people think they're playing a sport, they're actually getting fitness in, and to a certain extent they are, but they're also creating asymmetries. Those sports are all going to put dominant forces on one side or the other, and so if that's all you're doing for exercise, you're just going to wear yourself out. So there's nutrition, exercise, sleep. People don't realize, especially entrepreneurs, how important sleep is.
I don't sleep right now.
I really feel attacked all through.
Yeah. Yeah, sleep.
Are you sleeping yet? Is your daughter sleeping?
I mean, my kids sleep. It doesn't mean I do.
Okay. Well, your youngest is old enough to sleep through the night and everything.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, when you're co-sleeping, kind of, they've been co-sleeping for 5 years now. I haven't got much sleep in the last 5 years.
Fair enough. Okay, 5 things.
So nutrition, exercise, sleep, very important. Mental health. So all the things that can help with mental health. And then medicine. So medicine's really the only thing you get from your doctor. The other 4, your doctors really aren't taught how to help you with in med school. And all 4 of them are critical to living a long time. The good thing is they all kind of piggyback off each other. If you're not sleeping well, you don't feel like exercising. If you exercise, you sleep well. Or statistically, you're going to sleep better. So they kind of piggyback off of each other. If you don't exercise or eat right, you're going to need a lot of medicine. If you exercise and eat right, you're not going to need that much medicine. So they kind of ebb and flow between each other, but you put all 5 in good order, exercise being the most important. There is no better medicine than a good exercise program.
You're the best out of all of us on that one.
I'm getting
He's also the
better
one
at it.
without the kids.
He looks like
He's
it.
the only one without kids.
Got like 20-inch biceps over there.
They're only like 18 and a half, 19.
Only
Oh,
okay.
I think
Okay.
mine is like 14 or something.
Yeah.
Jeez.
14,
Well, you know what?
15.
I got
I
3
don't know.
kids and you don't, so boom.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have a clan yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I love my clan.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday
Soon.
we were at the park and my oldest daughter came running up to me and she was just having fun playing and she comes up and me nowhere. She's like, Dad, I have a superpower. I'm like, okay, cool. What's your superpower? She's like, it's a secret. I'm like, okay, you gotta tell me what your superpower is. She's like, my family. I'm like, oh,
man.
yes.
That'll melt your heart.
She ran away and she came back like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later. She's like, Dad, I have another superpower. I was like, okay. Like, you can't beat family. You know what it is? She's like, this is super special. I'm like, okay, what is it? She's like, my sisters. I'm like, oh my gosh, my babies. I love it. It's cute. So yeah, boom. That gym don't do that for you.
No. I agree 100%. In fact, I did it again, man.
100%.
Yeah, I know. I do that a
It's
lot.
nice to have you back.
Yeah. No, sleep, exercise, nutrition. And a lot of that, actually, I would say even the more important aspect, how you started out with, was nutrition. Understanding what your body breaks down, how it breaks it down. Everybody's a little bit different. Like you were talking about earlier, intermittent fasting. Not everybody can methylate, I guess would be the better way to put it. Because depending on how your body, breaks down the sugars and everything, that's the like the branch of nutrition you need to stay with. So I'm actually in the middle of getting a methylation test because I'm
Nice.
like you. I'm trying to be as healthy as I can for as long as I can. When I'm 75, I want to be able to still swing a golf club. I want to be able to pick up my kids.
90.
Yeah. So-
Absolutely.
I heard
So-
1% of people actually make it to 100.
Yeah, 100's genetics. Like 100's just because you had the right parents.
My grandparents on my dad's side are 89 and
Mhm.
86, 85.
That's a good life.
Yeah,
Let's go through this real quick. To your knowledge, oldest person in your family,
92.
Abel.
Like 86.
Yeah, 89.
92
But
still
but
alive.
my grandma,
Still alive.
my
Yeah.
great grandma lived to 94.
Nice.
So my great grandmother lived to be 106.
That is
Wow.
awesome.
106. My great grandmother, she lived like 98. She smoked like a pack of cigarettes, and every day.
Her genes are strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bro, that's a
Yeah.
You're like, that's a secret.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a
To
4
living
straight
long.
cigarette.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, when we were in grad school, when I was getting my doctorate, they had a person come on and do this whole presentation on, is in our geriatric class on aging.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's like, after all my research, this is what I came up with. And it was they go to this, these 2 twins, they go to the guy's house as a brother and a sister. They go to the guy's house and they're like, what do you think it took for you to live to 100 years old? And he's like, well, I always had purpose, I had faith, like I worked hard, like all the things you'd expect someone to say, like, I exercised. And then they walk across the street to his sister and she comes out smoking a cigarette. She's like, well, I don't know. I just wake up, eat some bacon.
Yeah.
Crack a cold one, light it hot,
Might as well
Exactly.
put a
live
good
a
dip in,
life.
start the day.
Exactly.
So Ty, I've got a question.
Sure.
With those 5 things that you focus on, how do you specifically help someone like me, myself, as a business owner, achieve that longevity? What does that look like for you, for us?
So first, you got to make everything simple. 'Cause if you don't make it simple and easy enough to do in 2 minutes, you're not going to do it. You're not going to keep up with it. You're not going to put it on your schedule because you're going to know it's going to impact your productivity. But if I can get you maybe just changing your dessert 3 nights a week from a dessert to a fruit, or no dessert at all, or get you just getting home from work and getting in athletic gear and putting on tennis shoes and a workout shirt. You don't even have to work out, but just
Put on my house shoes and I'm out.
Exactly. but just create those habits. I mean, James Clear talks about habit stacking in his book Atomic Habits, and that's
that's a great book.
A big thing. So when I'm working with my patients, because I don't know medicine, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't pretend to know what they need to take. I tell them what labs I would get, but I send them to their doctor, and that's their doctor's job. And I'm not. My bachelor's in psychology, but I'm not a psychologist. I use it a lot, but if they have mental issues, I'm like, you need to go see a professional. You need to get this handled from a professional. What I focus on is those other 3 pillars. So I focus on nutrition. I focus on the right types of exercise and frequency, and then I do focus on mentality. I've found in my career that most people are never exposed to a growth mindset. They're never exposed to how to create a habit, let alone a healthy habit. And so you can tell them as much as you want, but if you don't give them the tools and how to actually like apply that, like they're never going to do it. Like, okay, you need to exercise 30 minutes, you go to a doctor, you need to exercise 30 minutes a week or walk 8,000 steps a day. We've all heard the same spiel.
Yeah.
And no one can do it because it's like, how do you get to that point? Like where does someone learn how to find the time to go walk 10,000 steps a day or go to the gym and do strength training, the right types of stabilization or exercises this day or this day? And I found that if you just start small, like baby steps, like give someone something very simple to do, but have them do it consistently.
Yeah.
So I would take someone, those 5 things I gave you, like doing those things 6 out of 10 consistently is going to be far more beneficial than if they did it 10 out of 10 for 2 weeks out of the year, which is what most people do. They create their New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
They go balls to the wall for like 2 weeks, and then they're kind of done for the rest of the year.
And soreness sets in day 3, and you're like, oh, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Right. And as you know, because I can tell you actually have stayed consistent, it doesn't take long before you just don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's like 2-3 days tops, and you're like, man, like that kind of energy that I had from working out doesn't last long.
No,
you
it
lose
doesn't.
it pretty quick.
That's where the habits and the discipline comes in.
Yeah.
I've been on and off for 9 to 10 years in the gym, and I'll be times where I'm like, all right, I'm not going to go to the gym, and I won't go for a month or 2. But at that month or 2 mark, I'm like, why did I stop? Even if I was sore or tired or didn't want to do something, I always feel worse at the end of that 2 months. So even if it's like you said, small steps. So instead of quitting for 2 months, just go in and I'm going to sit in a sauna for 10 minutes.
Which
I'm
is
going to
great.
go up there and be on the Stairmaster for 5 minutes. Just go for 5 or 10 minutes. And at least you had gone that day, even if it's just a little bit, baby steps.
I've been playing sports with my boys, like going out back or
throwing the ball.
Throwing the football. I'll run routes, man. I'm like, give me a post route, give me a hook, like whatever it is. And I'll be the quarterback or trade back and forth between wide receiver and stuff, or like I'll kick the soccer ball around. That's what I've been doing for the workout since, I don't know, August. Leia was born in June, didn't sleep for 2 months, still not sleeping. I think 3 hours last night. But anyways.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to just give you a piece of advice. Eventually, that's what will lead to like an Achilles rupture or an injured knee, and then that will lead to you never doing anything again.
Is what?
Is just doing that for your exercise. Because, we call it kind of that weekend warrior. Like your tissues are too smart for your own good. Like if you're not constantly loading them, they say we don't need that strength in that tendon or that ligament, and they put it, your body will put it somewhere else. And so then you go out and you're running that route and you plant on the front of your foot and you feel like you got kicked in the back of the leg, and it was your Achilles tendon rupturing. And now you're like an 8-month process to just get back to walking normal.
Okay, I'll run routes daily now.
There you go. Just whatever you're doing, you want to be consistent with it for sure, 100%. And if you haven't been consistent with it, you want to start slow.
Because what I've always heard is the body is extremely adaptable. So if you're always like at a desk and you're always hunched over and you're not always worried about your posture, it will slowly turn to where your back muscles will become more loose, your chest muscles become more tight. Because
100%.
that is
and
what
this
it's
and then
used
this
to.
happens, and then it causes back and shoulder pain and neck pain, right?
Then I get paid money to fix it.
Yeah, it's like you said, your body's too good for its own self.
That's why the dental community is, eventually I would like to put together a program where I go and speak to businesses. But right now, just because of my experience with the dentist and the dental community, I've started speaking to dental groups and doing presentations and just kind of, like you said, just saying, hey, listen, you're like this all day, every day. If you're not doing something multiple times a day to counteract that, like the pitfalls to that will be like tenfold later in your career.
Yeah, it is.
So I got two quick things. One is these pint glasses that we now have available for sale. They're not on our website or anything just yet, but if you would like to order them, send us a message on Instagram or Facebook, and I will send you a link to be able to order them. They're shipped anywhere you want to order, and they're made on demand. You can order as many or as little as you'd like. So those are available. And then the other thing is, are you planning on taking this home? Because I might fight you for it.
You like it?
Yeah.
Good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I might just have to write you a check for 2 more.
I was actually planning on gifting it. I've got another one.
Oh, thanks.
So where do you get it?
You can buy it at the liquor stores, but it's usually like $180.
Do they usually order it?
I actually got that one when I was living in Japan. When we were living over there, I started stocking up.
This guy.
And so when we would have people visit us, we would usually ship them back with like 3 or 4 bottles. And when we would come back to the States, we'd each bring about 3 or 4 bottles. So
after today, if we decide to drink this, it will be for a special occasion.
It will. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you know we have a 1,124 downloads as of today
That's
on
cool.
the podcast?
Past our 1,000 mark.
I've been pushing them cars, dude.
I see that.
Everybody. Well, so I wanted to ask a question based on your 5 pillars. You keep on mentioning something, and I think these 2 things kind of go in line. Something that I think we can all relate to. Don't have the time, right? You try to solve that as much as you could on your end by becoming a mobile physical therapist, right? But you also mentioned, you talk about mentality. How do you break through to business owners to say, hey, we're so caught up? You literally hit the nail on the head. It's not that we don't see the value in it. We just see the value we could do in 2 hours versus coming to see you. That's all it is, So how do you help business owners like ourselves see the value in taking care of our bodies? And you mentioned early on, maybe before we even started the podcast, that instead of sacrificing your health for your wealth, you're trying to maximize on our health so that we can also maximize on our wealth. How do you help us see that and correlate those 2 things together?
Sure, easy. You're business owners, so you're goal oriented, right? You've got business goals, but I'm guessing you probably also have life goals. You have kids. Those kids are going to have kids. What kind of grandpa do you want to be? How active do you want to be? How much involved do you want to be in their life? What type of vacations do you want to be taking around the world? And then if you don't act now, being stuck at home, not being able to go and just getting FaceTimed or getting pictures sent to your iPhone or getting one of those fancy things all my patients have, because most old people can't afford to travel or can't function to travel. They get the little picture frames, or their families can just send them all the cool stuff, and they can watch it, and that's how they have to live vicariously through the other people traveling. So you just have to ask yourself, do I want to be the person watching the picture frame or the person taking the pictures?
Simple enough. I feel like we all definitely, I think you also hit that on the head, because we're all definitely goal oriented. And I think we as business owners, sometimes we do good about thinking long term, but a lot of times the grind of every day being a business owner makes you forget about that.
Sure. Man, you should have seen my to-do list yesterday. It was 6 o'clock. Leslie's was gone all day yesterday at work. I had Leah, one of the boys, actually both the boys, and I did chores and everything else. I got some stuff done. By the time she didn't get back home till 7 o'clock because she had to take Maverick. Maverick's, I think he's dying.
Oh, no.
Which is my German Shepherd that I've had. I adopted him from my vet, and he was a breeder dog. But he's 100% purebred good boy. He's a good dog. But anyways, so my to-do list yesterday was just like, and I don't know how I can squeeze in time to do all this stuff either.
Did you make it?
And that's the thing. You make the
yourself.
time.
Yeah. But again, it comes down to priority.
And
so like what, and you got to prioritize like on a daily basis, a weekly basis, or whatever.
15 minutes of high intensity exercise 3 times a week can have longevity benefits. It doesn't take too much in order to get long-term results. And they've even shown that getting in great shape one time in your life can actually have longevity benefits.
One time, forever.
Man, I was so dedicated. Like like it was 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. It was my routine. I'd get to the gym. I'd get to the office at like 7. I'd have a good hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So I do, maybe some days I do some cardio. Some days I maybe do a little bit more weight. Some days, most of the time I'd always like jump into the sauna. I'd hit the shower. I'd get to the office. My routine would be like making my coffee, looking through my emails, like maybe getting on social media a little bit. And then it's like, I'd lay in. It's all out of whack, which I'm blessed for. Not complaining at all.
That's so human
Just
of you.
acknowledging, that I'm human too.
Yeah,
and
right.
and anybody out there that's listening too, it's like, we all have those life events that happen.
It's a season,
and
man.
it's a season of life. It'll come back around, which is why I hang on to my membership, because every time I see that transaction, I'm like, you need to go. You need to go.
No,
Every month on the 9th.
I had a similar thing because we had just recently had a baby before we moved to Tulsa from Las Vegas. And so we had a 5-month-old at the house. We had busy schedules getting into a routine. I had a job at the time. My wife had a job at the time. And so we were busy, and I got out of shape. I went to my sister-in-law's wedding that November. I couldn't button up my custom shirt I had made in Thailand. I could barely get my suit jacket on. I'm like,
I bet you were pissed about that.
yeah, I was like, this is like number
It's
one,
an expensive shirt.
Actually, in Thailand, it's not, but that's why I had it.
But
made
nobody
there.
knows that.
Hey, I might know it in November.
Yeah,
True.
but so what I started doing is I would wake up in the morning, and the first week I did 5 push-ups, 5 sit-ups, 5 air squats. I just made it super simple. The next week it was 10. The next week it was 15. And I just slowly, it took 5 minutes. It was easy. It was the first thing I did when I woke up. Then when I got to the point where I was doing like 55 of everything, I kind of created the habit, and I was able to get back into a nice routine. But
55 push-ups in a row?
I never stopped.
I could do it.
I
could do it right now.
I kept adding 1 a week. So now
After
I'm
the
up to about
podcast,
120.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to see if you can
50?
actual
55?
push-ups. Yes.
Yeah. Chest to floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I don't go chest to floor. It's not that good for your shoulders.
Okay. Well, then you'll tell us how to do it then.
This guy
So,
over here, he knows how the body's actually.
You
supposed to
want
work.
the 90-degree angle with your elbows, right?
No. I mean, you're here, but once your elbows move behind your body, the head of your humerus is actually sliding into the front of your shoulder capsule, which is your anterior labrum. And so most weightlifters, most people who've played like sports growing up probably have some type of injury to their anterior labrum. And so that's going to put pressure on your biceps tendon, because you're actually going to slide out of your shoulder socket a little bit, and you're going to get biceps tendonitis.
Oh.
But if you just stop,
That's why I'm going to physical therapy
Yeah.
right now.
if you just stop when your elbows get to your body.
So when
you're
everyone's
not
doing the
creating
bench
that.
press, they always like, pull it to your chest, right? And they're always doing this. You're doing that wrong.
Well, if you have a shoulder injury, you are for sure.
If you don't have a shoulder injury.
you're probably okay. As long as you've been training it for a long time, then you're probably okay.
But
But-
if you haven't been training it for a long time,
Then
there's a lot of ifs
yeah.
in some of the stuff, I feel like.
Yeah,
Well, everybody's body's
it's
different.
unique.
Yeah, everyone's different,
Okay.
and I treat every patient of mine, every client of mine, like an individual. And that's a big blessing of this one-on-one model, is that I can spend the time with them to do that. But yeah, I mean, I've had weightlifters that they can bench 300 pounds stopping here, but if they go to their chest, their shoulder dislocates. They just can't physically.
Does that mean they're not, like, their body, the way that they've been doing things, it's not designed to go beyond that, but it should?
No, they had an injury, so they tore their anterior labrum. So now they just don't have a. So if you, have
I think I did that in my
shoulder.
shoulder, my
Yeah.
right shoulder.
Well, if you're south of 40 and you have shoulder issues, it's probably because you have an anterior labrum tear or a labrum tear in general.
So what can you do
Like,
for that?
that's why I
besides
didn't play
physical therapy?
sports.
Surgery.
Or go to the
can-
gym.
You can do surgery. Unless it's dislocated more than one time, the research doesn't really indicate that surgery is necessary.
I'm gonna have him look at my shoulder after this.
Most of my patients, even in the military, I would see like elite Marine recon guys that had anterior labrum tears, and I could get them back to fighting, doing everything that they need to, just within, because you're still going to have ranges of motion where it's a stable joint. You just have to stay within those ranges of motion. If you're like, no, I have to hit my chest, then it's going to be a crap shoulder. But if you're like, no, I'm willing to stay within my shoulders, like normal limits now, then you can still get a great workout in, and your shoulder's not going to take the brunt.
I've got a question about an entrepreneur meal plan. What, with as busy run and gunning, living our lives Mach 5 with our hair on fire, as my mother would tell me.
It's a great question.
What kind of foods should we eat, and to kind of like keep our good for our minds?
Mm-hmm.
You know, carbs, fats, you know, your macros. Like, you got some insights or ideas? Or
Protein. Like, most people are protein deficient.
You forgot the whiskey.
In terms of
I said whiskey into the macro.
There's no physical benefit to drinking alcohol. As much as I love whiskey, that's really the only thing I drink, and I try to stay below 7 drinks a week. Like that's kind of the key to alcohol. Anything over that's probably not going to have great long-term effects, especially on your brain, which tends to be an important thing.
So we're talking protein as in, hey, you need to eat meats, or so long as you can fit in a protein shake, great. You know, yogurt. Yeah.
Right? So both. Plant protein is I kind of discourage that, because your body doesn't break down plant protein. It doesn't utilize it like it does whey protein, like from meat or dairy, because that's the same protein as us. You know, if we're eating a steak, like that's the same protein we got in our muscles. It's easy for our body to take that. A lot of plant proteins actually tied to things like fiber and other things that either is harder to get out, or we just don't even like absorb it at all because we don't absorb fiber. It helps clean out our digestive system, but we don't get that protein intake from that plant as much.
I've noticed that a lot of baby formula, there's a couple that are whey, but there's a lot that are plant-based proteins. And so like my daughter, for the last, I don't know, freaking 4 months, we've been trying to figure out whether or not she's lactose intolerant, and that's causing some of her belly issues or things like that, or if it's like a whey or a plant-based protein or whatever it is. But now we're on like this Alimentum, which has got a protein derived from it's derived from milk, but it doesn't have plant-based protein. It doesn't have whey protein. It's got something else.
They just probably got the lactate out of it.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I never had to deal with that, thankfully. My kids just...
It's $36 a can.
Yeah, that shit's expensive.
Every
I was so
week,
happy for the second
4 or 5
kid.
cans a month.
The second and third kid, I was so happy. I'm like, yeah, you suck that titty. Like, it's free. I got to feed mom.
But mom, when she eats anything with dairy, it's not good for...
That never happened with mine.
At least 4 or 5 days.
Or at least not that we paid attention.
Okay, so anyway, so protein is good for the diet.
So protein, so you think of nutrition, like you can either like change the things you eat, you can change how much you eat, or you can change when you eat. I heard you talking about intermittent fasting earlier, and that I used to go 2 24-hour periods a week without eating whenever I was at that stage I was telling you about. Now I'm down to about 1, maybe every other week.
Is that on purpose or on accident?
On purpose.
Oh, okay.
So
that's cool.
I love that you asked that, because we've totally all done it on accident. You just forget to eat.
Oh yeah,
you're just running and gunning. And you're like, I didn't eat today.
Yeah, the problem is consistency.
That's why I'm hangry.
Yeah. Yeah, so the intermittent fasting does work in terms of like decreasing how many calories you're taking in a week, which is beneficial as long as you're still getting your protein. The problem with doing the intermittent fasting every day is when you're taking in protein, you don't like anything over 50 grams. You're pretty much going straight to sugar. You're turning it to glucose, and anything kind of below 25 grams, for some reason your body doesn't see that as something that needs to turn into muscle and strength. It just
because like on all the packaging designs for whether it's shakes or even foods or snacks or things like that, they'll always put like 8 grams of protein, and 12 grams of protein.
So if you eat 3 of them, you're doing all right. But if you're not, then you're probably not doing as much. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, the thing is, like, you need to be having about 25 to 50 grams 3 or 4 times a day.
Oh, wow.
And that's And
So for
that's how
the average adult, approximately 75 grams to 100 grams of protein per day. There's a body weight calculation, right?
He's probably up closer, 150, 160.
What grams?
Yeah, of protein.
Between 190 and 220.
Dang. So you're working out a lot then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I work out 6 days a week.
Okay. Yeah. So
He's
I
dedicated.
mean, obviously the more you work out, the more protein you're going to need, because the more your body's going to use it after, and then especially after workout, that's the best time to take protein, because that's when your muscles are like kind of craving it.
Yeah. What's that diet called where people just eat protein?
Carnivore
sort of
diet.
thing.
Carnivore diet, but meat has a lot more in it.
There's something else to where you just cut out carbs and it's protein and
your
fats.
keto diet.
Keto diet.
Yeah, keto diet. So I'm more. Everyone's an individual. Like I don't count macros. I don't try and encourage my patients to, because that's just another step that creates time and frustration, and you forget to do resistance. Absolutely. So I'm more of like, let's just start cutting from the edges, and let's just slowly create the diet that works best for you. So over years, that's what I've developed works best for me, is like a low carb, low sugar, high protein, high fat, which is essentially kind of keto-esque, especially on the days that I fast. I can definitely feel like I'm in ketosis, and it feels great. I actually like those fasting days, because you get those ketones, you feel more alert,
yes.
you feel that energy. And from an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense, because if you think about it, if you hadn't killed anything or ate anything for a few days, like you don't need to be lethargic, like less energetic. You need to be like amped up, like ready to go.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna eat this red berry.
So I used to do it a lot more, but
just get a sugar rush and take a nap.
The downfall to that is that you're decreasing the amount of protein you can utilize. And so now I'm trying to find that happy balance, because I got down to like 168 really fast. And that's was just
pretty lean.
Yeah, that was,
because you're not a short guy.
No, it was probably too skinny, because again, at about 55, it gets really hard to put on muscle mass. So whatever you put on until 55 is pretty much what's getting you to the end. And after 75, you're pretty much just kind of like on a downhill slope.
Slowly deteriorate.
Yeah, and so what you've built up to that point. So that's the reason falls are the number one cause of injury-related death, because I'm actually putting together like kind of just bullet points. I haven't started writing it yet, but I'm going to write a book on pain, because our whole medical association is just butchered how we respond to pain, because they tell people if it hurts, don't move. Like I literally had a patient the other day, her knee was hurting during physical therapy. I said, I think you have a meniscus tear, because she was doing some martial arts class, and you need to go to the orthopedic surgeon. They might have to clean it out. She goes to the orthopedic surgeon. He MRIs it. Yeah, you got an MRI tear. Stop doing physical therapy. I'm like, okay, maybe just wants to see how she reacts to that. I see her a couple months later, and I'm like, how's your knee doing? She says, well, he told me to start walking, and that hurt. So then I stopped walking. So then he told me to stop walking. And I'm like, so I guess your knee doesn't hurt, and he doesn't really care about your heart or your lungs. It's just the whole like perspective that we've given people in society is like, we shouldn't have pain. Whereas like I tell patients, like, I don't care about your pain. Like I could care less, because if I did, I'd just tell you to sit in the chair and never move again, or get high on a narcotic.
Let me put this in a different perspective. Would your business move forward if you didn't go through that pain? It's the same concept. We've all gone through stations where there was pain and we could have stopped and backed out and sat on the couch or whatever, right? But we didn't. We moved forward and we came out of those things. And I think that's a perfect, example of it. And maybe it's society, we're kind of getting to that point where, if you don't like it, if it's uncomfortable, whatever, you don't have to do it. But it sounds like it's proof, you have to continue slowly. Yeah. I've heard you say that multiple times today, is you have to build up to it, right?
Exactly.
You can't just go full on. You have to build up to it. And it sounds like, maybe that's something that I used to be in the nutritional field, and I heard that too a lot, was just like, and you said earlier, medicine doesn't solve the problem. You're solving the symptom.
It treats the symptoms.
Right, but you're not really solving a problem.
No.
And it sounds like with you, it's like, well, you recognize those problems, and you say, okay, how do we work through them? How do we build your body strong enough to get through those things, whether it happens to include medicine or not? It looks like you're looking at the full circle there to make sure that, especially, it sounds like you work with mostly business owners. We as a whole are holistic, right? And kind of covered on all ends, because frankly, he said it just now, we're stubborn. or else we wouldn't be business owners. That's simply put. But the reality is we all need help because Braden just had a baby. I had a baby last year. I've got 3 girls under 5. I got a business under just over 5. Like, my body has taken a crazy amount of just abuse the last 5 years. And when you think about it, it's like in the back of my head, I know that's going to catch up to me eventually. Like, yeah, I'm doing it now because I can.
Sooner rather than later.
But sooner rather than later, it's going to catch up to me.
Yeah, and the problem is like when it does catch up to you, the ball gets dropped so much. Like I have a patient, he was a Vietnam vet, like flew like the Cessna spy planes in Vietnam, which were like notorious for getting shot down, and got shot down twice, had back injuries, had a leg amputated. So he gets a leg amputated. They tell him, you're never going to walk again. He asked for a prosthetic. They laughed at him. And I started seeing him because I can see him one-on-one for a full hour. And he hadn't walked for 2 years. And I'm like, what's your goal? Because that's one thing I always ask patients, like, what do you want to do in this life? Like, and I'll do, like most providers tell the patient what they should do. And I think that's terrible. It's like, you're only going to live for 6 months. Well, they're probably only going to live for 6 months because you just told them that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I like to ask patients, like, what's your goal? Like, what do you want to do? If you could do anything, what would it be? And I'm not going to promise you can do it, but I'm going to work my butt off to try and get you there. And he said, I want to walk again. They told me I couldn't walk, but I want to. And his left leg was jacked too. He didn't have a good leg to stand on, which is probably why they told him that. But I just looked him straight in the eye and said, this is going to hurt a lot. Like, no, I'm not going to care if you want to get these results.
Yeah.
And he's just like, okay. So we got his left leg straightened back out, started strengthening it. And today he's walking 1,000 feet outside with a walker with a prosthetic.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But it's just, you gotta look past the pain, like you said. And most people, number one, the medical system doesn't encourage them to. They want them to focus on it forever because they get money off of the pharmaceuticals, off the joint replacements, off the surgeries, off the physical therapy where they're just treating the symptoms. So you come back and back and back and back and back forever. Or chiropractic, I don't think anyone's ever been discharged from a chiropractor that I know.
See you next week.
So it's like that perpetual, like treating the symptom mentality versus like, let's just like ignore the symptoms, treat the causes. Like I fixed someone's back pain because I found out they had an unstable ankle. So they've been overloading one side and we treated the ankle and their back pain went away because it's like they're a whole person. They're not just their back pain. Mm-hmm. And if you're not looking at that, you just miss it.
So, how did you get into this? How did you decide to change the way people do this? Because from my experience, people in your field are typically, as you just put it, they go out and they see 4 or 5 people at a time. They're trying to, and they're not focused on the whole person. What made you decide to focus on the whole person?
So, number one, the military was a great learning experience. Because in the military, the surgeons only do surgeries that research supports. Because an orthopedic surgeon in the military gets paid no matter how many gets paid the same no matter how many surgeries they do. A civilian surgeon gets paid based off of how many surgeries they do. And so when I went to the military and they're like, no, we want you to rehab this. We want you to rehab this. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, the research really doesn't support us doing surgery yet. And I started seeing all these things get better. And then as you start to treat things that you used to never treat in the civilian sector and see them get better, like a lot of times it's not the same thing that got him better. It's like, oh, I saw his shoulder, but I started working on his other shoulder because he's overusing this one and it got better. So you start to like see enough injuries get better using different approaches and then finding good mentors. I'm sure in your businesses, you guys have all found mentors in that space. And I just there's a guy in Loveland, Colorado. His name's Rhett Polka, and he has a clinic literally called 180 PT because it's 180 degrees away from sprinting away as fast as he can go from traditional physical therapy models. And I just have been following him for a while, learned from him. I've gone up and visited his clinic and done several of his courses. And so you just start to realize that I think there was I can't remember his name. There's a guy who won a prestigious business award at like 38 years old because he like ran 2 successful companies by that point. And they asked him like, how did you do that? And he's like, well, I saw what everyone else was doing. I just did the opposite. And so I think that's the key, is just like realizing that just because everyone else is doing something doesn't mean it's the right way. And seeing someone and getting their pain better is completely different than seeing someone and getting them better. Like I can treat your pain in a day and it's going to feel better for a week, but that doesn't mean I treated what's causing it.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's cool. Sorry, I just had to ask that.
And I think I think we're in a transition period of going from Western medicine into more of like just actually how the body's supposed to be worked. Now more than ever, people like you actually wanting to make the body just move better. So where you're actually treating the cause, as opposed to the Western medicine of just treating the symptoms.
Yes, it's called, Peter Attia calls it medicine 3.0. Medicine 2.0 is great. It doubled our lifespan.
You know, if I break my arm, I'm gonna go to a doctor.
Yeah, it doubled, being able to treat an acute injury, an infection, like cancer. Like medicine 2.0, no doubt, it took us from 40 years average age to 80 years average age, and you can't deny that. But now our age is decreasing. Like it's hit its peak, and the pharmaceutical companies own it. We realized during COVID. So that's a pitfall for it, because there's a lot of doctors who could do a lot. They're just not really taught, because the pharmaceutical companies kind of own what's taught and what's not.
It's what, like a 40 or $60 billion a year industry? Do you think that they're going to treat a different way?
Yeah. Did they want you? They don't care about you preventing diabetes. They want you to get diabetes, but they do want you to live a long time with it. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. They need you to get sick, but then they also want you to live a long time sick.
Yeah. You need to just float in between sick and being better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you've traveled internationally. Was that on purpose or was that on accident? And when I asked that, was it on purpose? Like, did you travel internationally to further your per se medical experience and professional experience? Because there's some other countries that have a more methodical, traditional methods of cures or supplements or practices or things like that. So was there any reason behind that, or was it for more of the personal, or did you learn?
It was more professional. So my wife was an officer in the Navy, and she's half Taiwanese. And so she was given the option. We did a year in Norfolk, Virginia, and she was given the option to either go on a ship or go overseas to Japan. And so we said that's a no-brainer. So we went overseas to Japan, and we traveled a lot while we were there. We saw a lot. That's when I got my military experience. I started working for the DOD, started working with military professionals, and that was awesome, great learning experience. But I didn't really venture out into the Japanese medicine or Oriental medicine. I mean, the Western medicine is the best medicine. Like you go over to those countries and you realize that they live a long time because they live a healthy lifestyle. It's not because of their medicine. Like they can't afford to be unhealthy because their medicine's actually not that good. Like they are very diligent about getting up, moving. They work. The Japanese work practically till the day they die. And if they can't, the family kind of is.
Here in the U.S., it's just like, eat what you want, and then we'll fix you later.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's a lot of money in that.
It makes money.
It makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's just terrible when you think about it. You know, but what are you going to do? I mean, change your habits.
You can be tied.
Yeah.
You can make a difference in everybody's life.
Yeah.
As many people as you can.
Yeah. Try. One thing you realize in healthcare is you can only help someone who wants to help themselves.
Yep.
And so that's why I realize I can't go full board with people. Like I have to start on my baby steps and then let them kind of dictate how fast we progress, instead of saying you should be doing this. Like that just doesn't work. You can't change someone's mindset that quick.
Well, I heard you talking about James Clear and Atomic Habits, but do you know anything about like Andrew Huberman or like Gary Brecka? You ever listen to them?
So Andrew Huberman, I listen to a lot. So Peter Attia is probably the one I would hang my hat on.
Okay.
Because Andrew Huberman, he's a PhD doctorate, but he is not a medical doctor,
right?
And he's open about that. But
he says it before every podcast.
Yeah, he's a neuroscientist, very brilliant guy, very good at reading research. I don't really disagree with much he says, but Peter Attia is a Stanford trained medical doctor, Johns Hopkins resident, and and just really.
I smoked pot with Johnny Hopkins. You know that movie, right?
No.
Step Brothers.
Step Brothers.
Where he's in the
Brothers?
car, he's like, I smoked pot with Johnny Hopkins. No, you didn't. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
It's been a while since I've seen that. That's a good movie.
Step
though.
Brothers and Talladega Nights, like some of my favorite movies to watch.
Old school.
I have kids. I can't watch that shit anymore.
Yeah, you can. You just put some
They're like
earmuffs
5
on.
years
My
old.
mom was like, you can't watch Talladega Nights.
There you go.
And I eventually caught on like years later. I was like, I'm going to watch this movie.
It's a great movie.
It is a great
But
movie.
for 5 and 3-year-old little girls, not so much. I'm like, go watch your whatever you're watching in the living room. Get out. of here.
Go watch Bluey.
To your question, I think Andrew Huberman, he helped me out because part of my struggle, like you're talking about how I said I like to help people overcome struggles, and I see myself, even in the guy who hadn't walked for 2 years, I still kind of like put myself in their shoes because academically that was me. Like I was the person without the leg when it came to like scoring good on a test and things like that.
Had to put in the work.
And it was a lot of it was just undiagnosed ADHD. And I'd had teachers say, hey, you should go see this person. They could get you extra time on a test. They could get you this. And I was like, I'm not going to extra time in life. Like, there's no one's going to be extra time at a job to get the job done. And I'll figure it out. And so when I got to college, I started realizing that I had to just isolate myself, be in a quiet, secluded area. Like in class, I couldn't study, so I didn't go. Made teachers mad, almost got kicked out of grad school for it. but and then I started doing a flip where I would study for 45 minutes and then I'd read something completely different, like a C.S. Lewis book or something completely different than like science or
what
anatomy.
you're dealing with.
And then I'd flip back and it helped me out a lot. And I was listening to a podcast on Andrew Huberman about ADHD, and he was talking about how it's like a dopamine, and I would drink a ton of caffeine.
Yeah.
And I thought it was keeping me awake, but it actually facilitates dopamine.
Yeah.
And so it's actually helped me as a business owner be able to actually get more of the administrative work, because with ADHD, if you're not into it, like you can't do it.
Right.
Like it's like I can see patients all day and I love it and I'm into it. Like I could do it 10 hours a day and not get tired. But the second I sit in front of a computer and start doing notes or doing administrative or QuickBooks I've had to learn how to do, like shoot me in the head.
You got 5 minutes before you're just playing solitaire.
Oh yeah, I'm just like either
I'm almost doing
asleep.
the office manager.
Oh, an office manager's nice.
Yeah.
Hire a bookkeeper. Get that outsourced.
Couple $100 a month.
Yeah,
Totally
bookkeeping.
worth it.
Get it
One,
outsourced.
two, $300. Yeah.
It is not worth your headache. I promise you. There's people out there that are cheaper and way better at it than you
And
are.
local.
And local.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, I know as a business owner, you have to wear all the hats. You chose to wear all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
Let go of the bookkeeping as fast as you can. Get somebody you trust. Interview some people. If you don't like them, fire them. Hire somebody else. But a good bookkeeper, just not having to worry about that. If you're anything like we were, just not having to worry about that for a whole year before you actually deal with it is wonderful. You know, whenever you have a bookkeeper that's like every month, hey, by the way, the books are done. If you want to look at them, the books are done. Oh, okay, that's nice.
I look at mine all the time.
Yeah, and I do now, but at the time I didn't because I didn't know what I was doing. But I would definitely advise hire an outsourced bookkeeper, an office manager eventually. But man, you have so many things you are doing, and I can tell just from talking to you right now, bookkeeping is not your strong suit. And if anything, you have to.
He's like, you guessed it.
You have to really gas yourself up to get after it, right? And then you're like, okay, I'm over it.
He's sitting there and he's got the Yamazaki and he's like, okay.
Yeah, right.
Here
Exactly.
we go.
One transaction is one drink. Right. Exactly. I'm telling you, hire an outsourced bookkeeper. It'll be the best thing you ever did. It does cost money, but I promise you, it'll be worth it. Hands over fist. It'll be the best thing you ever did because you won't have to deal with it.
Sure.
It's just plain and simple. It's not that hard. I think realistically what I've done, but it's just tedious. It's just and if you got ADHD, man, you need to be moving these things not on a keyboard, but like physically moving your hands and your body. That just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, sitting down's not my jam. They were going over all the majors when I got to college, and I'm like, if it requires me sitting down, I'm not going to do it because I'll get fired in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, and with your profession, you're not designed to sit in a chair Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Exactly.
Right.
Which
That goes against what you tell other people to do. That's funny.
Yeah, they've actually done research that shows sitting for 8 hours a day increases your chance to have heart disease by 40%, regardless of diet or exercise. So even if you exercise and you eat right, if you're sitting for 8 hours a day,
that's it. We're all getting standing desks now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out and work with the guys more often.
And you can do high-low desk. So my desk I have, it stands up, and so if I'm doing administrative work, I'm standing up. But if I want to if I'm doing like a video conference call or something, I want to look a bit more professional, I can just hit another button, it lowers down, I can sit in a chair, and it works really great. But the worst thing is our society today, people will sit at work for 8 hours a day, and then they come home and then they have all their Netflix and TV shows, sports, and they sit on the couch for another couple of hours. If you sit for 13 hours a day, your chance for sudden death goes up 300%.
You can mark this podcast as 100% attacking me.
Okay, so we're coming up on our hour here, a little past, which is okay. Let's do like a little quick 60-second Q&A. You included. You can ask us.
Okay.
Ask one of us. Pick one of us and ask a question. Somebody start. You got something?
Yeah. What is, if you mentioned starting small, what's that one workout you would recommend? Can you also suggested that exercise is the number one thing you can do for your longevity?
Yeah.
Someone wants to start. If anyone wants to start working out, what's that one workout that if you did 5, 10, 15 a day is the one you would recommend? Hey, go do this, whether it's running, push-ups, whatever. What would you recommend do this for 15 minutes if that's all you do? What's that?
So in the last year, I've started kind of slowly adding to like a YouTube war chest. It's at Tyler Trumbo DPT. And there's one of the videos is on dynamic warm-up and cool down. And I designed it to do before and after a workout, because stretching is actually bad for you. Foam rolling is actually bad for you. Guns are bad for you. Because they actually break down those actin myosin bridges in your muscles, and then they don't perform as good. So you're at risk for injury actually goes up if you stretch before a workout, as opposed to dynamic. You want to take your muscle to the full range of motion, but you want to do it with your muscles, not passively with your body weight, so to speak. And so I have a dynamic warm up and cool down. If people would just do that in the morning and at night, it takes about 8-9 minutes. That alone would start to increase their stabilization, their core strength and stability. And then I have a stability video on there that would kind of build off of that. So it's to stabilize. Even on top of that, it's actually a full like 20-30 minute workout, which would be a little bit harder to do.
So now, can you repeat that, where we can find that for you?
Tyler Trumbo DPT.
Okay, on YouTube.
DPT?
Yeah, Doctor of Physical Therapy.
We'll also link it in the description. We'll get it after the podcast.
Yeah, somebody go next. I'll look it up.
But so if you just do that would put you in a pretty good trajectory, and it's just something you can follow along.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm thinking something. I like to use myself as an example, right? But someone who doesn't work out, I don't work out. I go out in the field sometimes and will help the guys. But typically, my working out is chasing the kids.
Yeah.
But I know I need to do something. You literally just mentioned, hey, exercise is key number one, right? Of all things. And then you also mentioned keeping it simple. I wasn't expecting you to say a stretch or a proper warm up and cool down. But that, I think, has a lot to do with the fact of how you're using all your muscles together, and frankly, what you're trying to just get that motion going, right? Get that motion going. And I think that's something super simple to start.
Take all your joints through their full available range of motion actively every day, and it'll be very hard for you to lose that ability.
Perfect.
Like most people, by the time they're 55, can't do a deep squat, can't touch their butt to their heels, so to speak. And that's very closely tied to longevity. Like, because you think about it, you can't do that. You get old, you bend over to pick something up, you can't squat,
right.
You fall.
Yeah.
Right.
And grip strength is actually very closely tied to longevity.
Okay.
So the stability video actually incorporate pull-ups, because that's a good way to, you're increasing back strength, but you're also increasing grip strength because you're holding your body weight up.
Perfect.
I got one tip, because we didn't really talk about it. I tried to lead into it with the Huberman thing, but one tip on sleeping better. What do you got?
Sleeping better.
Get the kids out of your bed.
Put yellow dim lights in your bedroom. Okay. Turn off all electronics an hour before bed.
So no blue light.
Yeah, and get at least 20 to 30 minutes of sunlight in the mornings before 10 o'clock in the morning. That's
Wait.
all Andrew Huberman.
Wait, hold on.
So I'm
Let me-
stealing all that, but that's all research based.
It's research based.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Let me verify this because I don't know about Andrew Huberman. I haven't heard of him.
Shout out Huberman Lab
You
podcast.
just mentioned sleep and 10 minutes of sunlight before 10 a.m. How does that correlate to your sleep at night?
Well, every cell in your body kind of they're starting to find has its own circadian rhythm. And so when that gets off, it's off. It's hard to kind of like, pop it back into place. But morning sunlight is like the best way to do that. And if you do it consistently, it gets consistent. So it's like that sunlight in the morning kind of like tells your body,
hey, wake
that
up.
like, hey, it's morning. And then it just automatically kind of knows when night's going to be and when it's going to be time to go to sleep.
Is that why
it just kind of
when
sun goes down, your body gets tired. Yeah.
Dude, that 4 a.m. I get my 10 minutes every day, but when it gets dark, my body's like, it's time to go to bed.
And one thing I want to add. So if you are doing
and exercise.
Obviously, the more you exercise, the more you'll sleep better.
Exactly. Exercise helps everything.
Okay.
While you're doing your 10 minutes in the sunlight, and this has been proven by a couple different researchers as well, is be barefoot on bare ground if you can.
Grounding.
Grounding.
So my fiance does that, and I'm like, you're crazy.
Okay, I did too, man. Until I started doing it too. My wife does it all the time. My kids, they're 5 years old and like, Dad, you need to take off your shoes and ground. And I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about. But I heard a podcast or something about how 10, 20 minutes of grounding will help back pain. Right? I thought it was horseshit. And then I started standing outside barefoot.
What if it's a placebo?
But
maybe
was
it
it the grounding, or was it that you're actually standing instead of sitting? Because sitting's terrible for your back.
Ooh.
Or what if you weren't wearing shoes and your shoes were causing you back pain?
Okay, maybe you're right. All I know is it feels good when my feet are on
Hypothesis.
grass.
I do work out barefoot. Like if I'm at home, I'm barefoot. If I'm in the gym, I'm in minimalist shoes. Like there is.
Now don't tell me you wear those weird web toe
Oh,
shoes.
those are dope though. Have you worn those?
No, I
Dude, those
haven't.
are so
I
comfortable.
won't.
They rock. I need to buy a pair. I've talked about those for the last year, and I'm like,
No way.
Brayden, you go sit in your corner in your Crocs.
Shoes are important.
I'm weird, and I'll stand for it. It's fine.
And the more flexible and less supportive they are, the better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't like being barefoot, but again, the grounding thing. My wife's a hippie, and my kids do it too. And I started doing it, and I've got to say, I just love it. Like, actually, yesterday I was at the park with my kids, and we're literally at the park having a good old time, and I was like, girls, let's take our shoes off. And then we just played the whole rest of the time with our shoes off, and I'm like, it was probably a solid hour and a half, and as soon as I took my shoes off, and I stepped on the grass, which is crazy, because I had this conversation on Monday with somebody about how here lately I feel like I can actually feel energy, right? Like, I can actually feel it. And it's crazy. I was literally standing on the concrete, took off my shoes, and everything was good. But until I stepped on the grass itself, like I literally felt something different. I was like, whoa.
Dude, my grass
this is what
sucks.
my
I
wife
need your
talks
help.
about.
All I've got is those stupid stickers all over my front and backyard. Like my kids can't play
character.
out back. I need help.
character?
I need your help on that. I really do.
I got you.
I've tried. I've tried to go through whatever method. That's after the podcast. Okay. My turn. What's your biggest frustration right now? Personal or business? Don't care. What is something that you're just like,
That's a great question, Brayden.
I've been trying to hire another doctor of physical therapy for 6 months. I've done Indeed. I've done ZipRecruiter.
I know a guy.
I'm about to go back to Indeed. And,
I know a guy that's coming here back and forth from San Diego. And he's
I
a
just saw a light
chiropractor in
bulb go
San
over his head.
Diego, and he has his PT background. He's gone to school for PT and chiropractic, and he has his DO. He has a practice out there, but he wants to have one there and here. So
yeah, I kind of need someone full time here.
full time?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But if he's DO, he's a doctor.
I know somebody else for that too,
Okay.
but it probably wouldn't be for
guy.
about 3 to 6 months.
So it's it's kind of one of those things. I got a baby coming. I would love to.
Oh shoot, yeah, you did
In
mention that.
February. And I got our
Yeah.
first girl.
Congrats.
Congratulations, man.
Hey, man, girls are amazing.
Looking forward to it.
Is it your first time being a girl dad? I forgot.
First time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a
We're
moment.
pumped.
You're gonna cry.
Welcome to the princess life.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's great.
But it would be great to have someone who could see patients and actually not have to shut everything down for a week or two. Or
Because you're the product.
yes, exactly.
You know, what happens if you go out?
Yeah,
Your business and your revenue does too,
exactly.
which is a big concern. That's your number one priority is in the next 2 months to find somebody to take your spot to assist.
Absolutely.
Did I
Because
just sense some pain we're working through?
Yeah, I have an assistant. She's great.
So if you live in Tulsa, you here, and you have your license, you've been to school, whatever it is, right? You need to reach out to you.
Yeah, no, it's a performance pay scale.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna be the only orthopedic game in town that's gonna give them 6 figures, but they have to earn it. You know, that's the only thing. And
Nothing comes free.
Yeah, nothing comes free. So,
do you have a question for all of us or one of us?
yeah, I mean, y'all have gotten to know me a little bit. You know the infancy of my business. So any advice that you would have, I think it'd be beneficial now, because if someone else is watching, they might benefit from it too.
My message over the last several months has been a lot of cover your ass. And while I'm discouraging some people from getting into business before they get into it and it's too late and they have those moments to where I wish I would have had that legal conversation with a lawyer to make sure I have my contracts right, to make sure I've got a bookkeeper, and not just a bookkeeper, make sure I have a CPA, an accountant, somebody who keeps up with the tax laws, somebody that knows my industry, somebody that goes, oh, hey, did you know this form just came out? We need to make sure this gets filled out on time. Sign this because it does X, Y, and Z. Someone being able to make those connections is important. Uphold some level of professionalism that goes all the way to when people call your office, your answering system, or the way that people answer your phone is really important, or your voicemail. A lot of people miss out on those little details, but it goes a long ways. Your emails and your email signatures, like stuff like that, is important. And with me as your marketing guy is like your brand colors, your messaging, your fonts, your consistency across print and digital. All that stuff is really important. So that's few of my suggestions. I'm trying to tell a lot of people to cover your ass, because I've been through a lawsuit. I've been through a couple of business partners to where they just wanted to sit back, relax, and cash in a check. You know what I mean? Some things like that. So, and one of the things that's really stuck with me since that lawsuit is my attorney said, be careful who you get in bed with. And that doesn't just mean personal. He was really just talking about business. That's all it was. And you think that whenever you get a new client or a new customer, that it is just that. It is just transactional, but it is much more than that, because, and some people will say too, that it's just business. And you're like, no, if you're going to do business with me, you trust me. I had to build a relationship with you to do business with me. It therefore became personal. If you decide to not do business with me at some point, it is some level of personal. It can just be business. If Abel comes to me and he goes, hey man, ARC has decided to hire someone internal to handle this X, Y, and Z. It has nothing to do with you. It is literally just business. I love you. I will still be your friend, blah, blah, blah. That may be a different conversation. Those are more unique, but I had to build a relationship with Abel to be like, hey, you know, I'm going to take your
money.
Give me your money. But I had to build a relationship with them. At first, it was nearly transactional, but then it kind of curated into a relationship, and I really try to instill that into everybody. And I don't believe that it's always just business. So with anybody that I do business with, I really do care about them, and I really want them to communicate with me and make sure we're on the same page. And right now I'm even having some difficulties with some clients where I'm like, we should have talked about this 4 months ago. And I've asked these kind of questions to bring up those opportunities. So, you know, communicate, you know, try to figure out ways to cover your ass, sit down and look at different areas of your business and be like, how can I penetrate and take myself out? Almost kind of SWAT style, right? So sit down, think through, be like legal, okay, finance, customer service, marketing and branding, or whatever. I know that with franchise, it's a little difficult to do that, but you're a personal brand too. And right now, the whole thing about personal branding is exploding. Like if you look at Apple's follower base is about 8 million. Tim Cook is 13 million. And that's just one example. There's several companies where the founder, the owner, CEO, whoever has built a personal brand and business follows through. So you only have some level of control with the franchise, but you as Tyler, as Ty, you have a lot more flexibility. Double check your stuff on the franchise stuff and what you have flexibility with. But you could sit here and make TikToks, reels, and shorts and whatever all day long about your own personal brand and talk about your journey, or maybe it's vlog style. I don't know, but that's my long story short.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast the other day, Ed Milet, and he had a marketing guy on that was talking about healthcare, and they'd done research that showed 74% of people wanted their healthcare provider to have an online presence outside of the company name. Mm-hmm. And I was like, crap. So that's when I started doing the YouTube. Like, I don't like doing that stuff. Yeah. But it's like, if I got to do something here and there, I will. If I need to do more of it, I will, because, you know, an entrepreneur is willing to do whatever they got to do. But it's not natural for me to sit there and like film a video.
You have to. Some people it does just come natural. Some people they put up a camera and they just go with the flow. And then there's some people that are like me, to where like I'm terrible on camera. I'm better behind the camera and better at like telling you what you should do than I am looking at myself and being like, oh, I should have done that different. Yeah, exactly. But like it takes practice and don't look back in 2 or 3 years.
And
it's not that far away.
I do want to build an individual brand too. Like I want to be able to go and talk to a business or a dental conference or whatever as Tyler Trumbo, not iMove PT. So I see your point for sure.
So Abel Chance, got a few minutes. Go.
Yeah. Kind of going along with what Braden said at one point in his spiel. Man, and I haven't read this book yet, but what the title of this book is made all the difference. You're young in business, and I wish I would have realized this earlier, but it's who, not how. You think about it, how do I get XYZ done? It's not a matter of how you get it done. It's who do you know that can get it done. I could market. He and his team does way better. It's plain and simple. You could bookkeep. Promise you there's somebody that does it way better than you, way more efficient. You could write your own contracts. I promise you there's an attorney that can do it better, faster, more efficient. Find those people that are important to you, that you need to fill in. Another thing that another business owner, he was there whenever this business owner said, but as a business owner, you have to understand that you're going to suck at a lot of things, and that's okay. Find out what you suck at.
You're going to suck at 90%
90%
of it.
The
10%
find out what you suck at and hire that out. I'm just now going through that process and finding those people that I trust to cover my back and essentially cover me whenever I don't know what I'm doing. Man, find those people. Don't be afraid. You don't have to do it all alone. You know, I know he mentioned the franchisee portion of it. I know that obviously there's some guidelines you kind of have to fit between, but the reality of the situation is, if you find the right people, perfect example, I could go learn everything I could about marketing. I could, and it's going to take me how long to learn it? Forever. And I'm going to do and I'm going to do half as good a job as this guy. Whereas instead, I can hire him, who's been at it for 10 years. And in a matter of a year and a half, he can pretty well train me on everything that I should know about my business, so that way I can relay information to him, so that way he can do a better job on his end. I just cut out 8 years of my learning curve. You've got plenty to learn being a business owner. Find people that can fit those other shoes of yours. A bookkeeper would be great. If you're hiring a new PT doctor, I would recommend, and maybe your franchisee has the opportunity to do this, but find expectations for what you actually want them to fulfill. Find ways to create checklists and stuff like that you're like, hey, not only can I just say, hey, for instance, John, you got an appointment with Lisa today. Have fun, go. This is your appointment. This is what you're getting paid. That doesn't, at the end of the day, that doesn't tell you how good that meeting went. It knows you know nothing other than, hey, I think I can build that. But the reality is there's ways you can put expectations and guideposts for your people. We're entrepreneurs.
I think that's one of my problems. I've been way too picky.
and that's not, I don't think there's such a thing as too picky. There really isn't. No. I think you'll find out being picky is really good, because you're being picky until you get that person, and then you realize maybe you were being picky about things that aren't so important. But in order to get there, you've got to be picky first. It's better to be picky. I can tell you straight up, it's better to be picky than to just hire anybody right off the street that'll just come and work for you. I mean, that's just the reality.
That'll cost you more money.
It will cost you more, I
anything else.
promise.
But
But
with my business model going into people's homes, like it's not like an outpatient clinic where people
Right.
go and they can eval and then push them off to an assistant who's good with people. Like
right,
it's like you have
it's
to be able
completely
to
different.
like gain trust, talk to people, build relationships, and unfortunately not everyone can do that. Like there's a lot of, I've learned over the years that there's a lot of dumb doctors out there.
Well, and that, like I said, it comes down to who. Like I said, not how. Find out who can. Like, for instance, I know there's resources out there aside from Indeed, aside from Monster or whatever else that does now for hiring people that might be able to help you find those people, which is crazy. But I have a good friend of mine who does talent management, and all he does is train and help recruit and assist people in finding that team that team that they need. In your particular instance, I'm not saying that's the best option, but in your particular instance, man, you're busy. You got to skill scour Indeed. You got to go through all these interviews. You got to go through all this. Whereas there might be someone, and it might make sense for you to hire someone outsourced to say, hey, I need you to interview such and such person. I need you to get to know me, first of all, to understand what I expect. And then try to find that person that's going to be the right fit for me. That way, instead of me having to interview 15 people, I interview 5. You know, and yes, there's a cost involved with that. But here lately, I've started to learn, like I said, it's who, not how. No great business, I don't care how big it is, was ever done with one person. He had a team of people and one person took the credit for it. But the reality is everybody had a team to create something great. If you're willing to do this, if you're wanting to do the same thing, you got to find your team. The faster you can get out of the idea that you have to wear all the hats, the idea that you have to control all of it, the faster and better it will be. But with that caveat is you're going to suck at a lot of things. You're going to have to fix a lot of problems. But it's just part of it. You know, we decided to take on the role as business owners. But just find those people, man. Like I said, a bookkeeper, you mentioned that. I would hire that as soon as you can. I would make that priority number 1. Find a bookkeeper that I can get with once a month. I trust, I like. Braden, I believe, uses someone, a VA overseas or something like that does bookkeeping. No?
Local.
Local, okay. My bad. I have an office manager. Who happens? I got lucky with my sister. She's got a bachelor's in accounting. But all these things, it's just about who, right? And sometimes that person may be found through Braden asking, hey, what's the biggest pain point you got right now, and how can we help that? And Braden happens to know 2-3 people that might be a good fit for you.
Start the conversation.
But
start
right.
asking. Yeah.
But just start asking. You know,
and people
hard.
that are quote unquote successful or maybe a step ahead of you. A lot of times, like, they're really willing and able to help you out if you're in a predicament or whatever. And even with the people who are per se equal to each other and levels of experience or business or revenue, whatever you want to call it, they're willing to help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
Chance.
I'll keep this one short because we kind of touched on it too in the podcast already. Credit, even if you have the capital, don't use your own money. It is the dumbest thing in the world to use your own money in today's society, especially 2-3 years ago when you could get a credit line for 2%, 3% on whatever you wanted to do. When you go into something and you put all your money in it, and if it fails, then now you're out. Even if you were on credit, maybe your credit drops or maybe you can do a consolidation towards it. But as soon as you can, get credit. Use credit. Anybody who uses their own money is a fool in the short term.
Apple doesn't.
Why would they?
$90 billion in cash.
But that goes back to rich dad, poor dad.
Yeah.
Use credit. So I'll keep it short, man. Y'all are talking on for 20 minutes. We're already over time.
Alrighty. Well, Ty, sorry about that. Ty, thanks for coming in to the Brews Business Podcast and being our guest. And thank you for sharing the Yamazaki 12-year aged.
That's delicious.
Thank you for that too.
Don't touch mine.
I'm not touching it. Did you see I tried to steal his?
I know. I went to this. I was like, wait, did I drink that? Dang, that's
We only got one bottle. I'm trying to enjoy it.
It's good. It's good.
Oh yeah. Really appreciate all you guys tuning in. We hope you're enjoying the content. We'd love to see your support. Please give us a like, a subscribe, leave us a review. It means the world to us, and it helps others find us as well. Also, if we're curious to hear from you. So if you've got somebody or some topic or something that you're struggling with, you want us to have that conversation with, just let us know, leave a comment, send us a message. You can tag us in social media, Brews in Biz. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Any of those topics you'd love for us to cover on upcoming episodes, we'd love to do that. Until then, cheers and happy brewing. Chance, it's glad to have you back in. I've missed you. And Abel, missed you too. And Ty, thank you for being our guest. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, I got a question real quick. Sorry.
Okay, last note.
Ty, how do we get a hold of you?
Oh, yes. How do we get a hold?
You can just look up iMove PT Tulsa. Got Facebook, Google, or you can find me at Tyler Trumbo DPT on Instagram or YouTube.
And that's how we brew in biz.
Let's do it. It's done.